Hey guys, this is John. I'm playing kokings in the 15-minute pool on ICC. Kokings opens with d4. What will we have today? I'm sort of feeling in the mood to do something offbeat, but I don't know exactly what. I should have thought of this before the game, but it's hard to predict what your opponent will do and what color you'll have, first of all. Let me check kokings stats just for a moment. 25 wins, 6 losses, peak rating of 2048. I'm going to play it close to the vest because that's a good record. So let's play our usual Slav. Possibly a semi-Slav, but I think let's play knight f6. If I wanted to stay in a Slav proper, I would play d takes c4. But this guy's an unknown quantity, so I'm just playing it close to the vest, as I said. They played a lot of standard games, but not many 15-minute games. They have, 15,000 standard games with a peak rating of 2310 in that category. Standard could be a number of different time controls, long games, but ICC categorizes them differently than the 15-minute pool. Okay, so knight e5. I'll play knight bd7. And after knight takes c4, I'll play queen c7. This is a line you've seen me play a few times on my channel if you've been following along recently. The idea is to push e5. Okay, now bishop g5. An offbeat move. The other day I played Grandmaster Conrad Holt in a blitz game, and he played queen d2 on move 8. Bishop g5 is along the same lines. It's another one of these slightly unusual moves that's not totally bad, but also should not be challenging to black's setup. I think e5 is the move even here, so I'm leaning towards playing that. And if white takes on f6, I would take with the g-pawn in reply. So let's go ahead and do this. He's played quickly so far. He's looking for that quick knockout. I'll take with the g-pawn, as I said. If I took with the knight, I would lose e5, so I definitely don't want to do that. White can play e4 and try to attack my bishop, but I don't think I mind playing bishop g6. I have a dark square bishop now, and there's a decent chance I may have great influence on the dark squares. Hopefully I could bring about a scenario where my dark square bishop is relevant and he's missing his dark square bishop, which he has just exchanged. If bishop e6, I'm a little concerned about d5, so I think it's prudent to play this retreat instead. I could also take d4, but then after, say, queen takes d4, there is a move like bishop c5. That's an option, but somehow I feel it's better to hold off on this capture. Yeah, let's just drop the bishop back. Bringing the bishop out to b4 might be an option for me. Pinning the white knight on c3 and also attacking the e4 pawn. I've got my rating back above 2400. We like to see that, even though I'm not attached to my online ratings whatsoever. Well, maybe a little bit. You just like to see them going in the right direction, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over lost rating points. As happened the other day, I don't know how many of you who watch my standard videos also watch my bullet videos, but I dropped about 200 rating points in a tournament where I tried to berserk every game, meaning I cut my time in half in a bullet tournament. So I started with 30 seconds instead of the traditional 1 minute. And that was fun, although painful for my rating. So d5 was played. I'm thinking about playing bishop b4 as I described. Bishop c5 is the alternative, but bishop e4 seems more threatening. Maybe I can use the c5 square for the knight instead. Yes, let's send this out here. I suspect white will respond with bishop d3. But then maybe I can even take on d5 and white would be forced to take with a pawn. Okay, so they take on c6. Now let's think, because queen takes and pawn takes, both are possible, and even bishop takes c3. My first instinct was pawn takes in order to guard d5, but now I'm wondering if that's even necessary, because this pin is so strong, it's going to take white a couple moves to even get out of that pin. So if I just play queen takes, I'm threatening queen takes e4. If queen takes bishop d3, I can play bishop takes e4. So it's really a pretty quick attack, isn't it? And I can always take c3 later if I'm truly worried about the knight coming into d5, say, after white has castled. So I'm thinking queen takes is justified. And in fact, I think it's going to put white in danger. So let's play this way. This is another opponent, just like my last opponent, Rabore, in the 15-minute pool, who's played the opening very quickly, and they made some committal decisions as a result. Now, I'm not advocating you get in time pressure, but some of these moves that white has played already could be mistakes. They very well might be. I think the position starting with bishop g5, e5 is kind of an original one. Maybe white knows that bishop g5 is possible. Maybe they were just making it up. But it seems like a sequence that you want to ponder a bit. Bishop takes f6, e4, d5, taking on c6. All of these moves could be debated, so you don't want to do what white is doing now, which is have to spend time after you've already committed yourself to a certain position without understanding the consequences. I can't stress that enough. You have to spend your time proactively rather than reactively. So I've got pressure with my two bishops on that white knight on c3 and also attacking the pawn on e4. I have the possibility of maybe knight c5 if I want to ratchet up the pressure. I'll probably go kingside with my king, but I don't even see a need to castle at the moment. Knight b6 is another idea I'm playing around with if I want to try to get rid of this knight. I think white does not have time to play a move like f3, even though that reliably defends the e4 pawn. I think the damage they do to this diagonal and the time that it takes to truly secure their structure like that is going to come back to bite them. But they are playing this move, so we'll see how I can take advantage. Now, knight b6 is a pretty direct move that I am tempted by because it threatens the knight. It might enable rook d8. And he can't play b3 in reply. That's one nice point about this move. He could play queen b3, though, couldn't he? Knight b6, queen b3, hitting my bishop. That's a bit annoying. Maybe I should start with just castles first. And then if white plays bishop e2 or bishop d3, I can decide if I want to play something like bishop c5 and thereby stop white from castling. Or maybe even knight b6 then, also playable. This queen b3 move might be a saving grace for white. Castling just seems all around useful, so I'm leaning towards that move. I'm slightly worried that my bishop will be out of play, but I think the position is sharp enough that that doesn't matter right now. Bishop takes e4 is a move I could look at. Bishop takes e4, f takes e4, queen takes e4, check. Just doesn't appear to work after bishop e2, at least right now. Yeah, so let's just castle. Tempting possibilities, but we can be pretty certain that this is a good move. I wasn't completely sure how to attack white, and queen b3 always seems like an effective answer, so let's just see what white does. I think I would play bishop e2 if I were KO kings. On d3, the bishop is slightly more exposed. White really needs to get castled, so bishop e2 looks more coherent. If queen b3 is played right now, I would probably respond with a5, securing my bishop, and then maybe look to go knight c5 on the next move. I could see something like knight c5 to e6 to d4 being pretty tough to deal with. Yep, and white does play bishop e2. Probably a good decision. So now, do we try to keep their king in the center with bishop c5, or do we play some other way? If bishop c5, there's knight d5. And white doesn't have a threat per se associated with that move, but e7 they'll be eyeing, and it might be tough to get that knight out of that square. If I play knight b6 right now, queen b3 again will be the answer, I believe. Knight takes c4. Nothing quite materializing there. I could play some move like rook fd8, but white might just castle. Note that queen c5 is not possible because white would win my knight on d7. So I can't do that. So I'm thinking of ways to either stop them from castling or make castling come at a price. What about the line knight b6, and then if queen b3, then bishop c5? A possible selling point of that line is that knight d5 would not be working too well for white because I could just play knight takes d5 and reply. So that's something to consider. I could also try something like f5 if I want to break up white's e4 pawn, but it seems better to try to do something more so on the queen side or in the center or directed against castling. Knight b6, queen b3, bishop c5, knight takes b6. Let's say bishop takes b6, knight d5. Seems like a nice position, but then again, that's a pretty strong knight I'll have to deal with. Rook fd8 is a very natural move, but I don't see it leading to much here. Moreover, I think it lets white castle, so I'm not liking how easily they get out of this. Not a simple decision. Kind of leaning towards knight b6, however. Bishop c5, just I don't completely like. Maybe I can play bishop c5, knight d5, rook fc8, something like that. b4 is coming, though. e7 is hard to defend. Annoying to defend. I know I'm spending some time here, but just trying to figure out what will happen because this is a pivotal moment. So knight b6, queen b3, bishop c5. Knight takes b6. Bishop takes b6, knight d5. Maybe bishop a5 check, something along those lines. Okay, I'm going to go with that line. We'll go knight b6. If queen b3, there's also queen c5. Maybe that's the way forward. Now that there's no hanging knight on d7. Queen b3, queen c5. And if a5, knight takes c4. All right, I'm coming around to this line now. I'm going to look at castles on move 13 closely, because I feel like I might have had something better there. But this might still be good. We'll see. Okay, so queen c5. Do I play it? You could castle queenside. But I think something like rook fc8, that rook coming into the action down the file, should be good. So yeah, let's go ahead and play this. I know I didn't look at this line in serious detail, but first sight it looks good. I think it looks stronger than bishop c5 because I kind of get the best of both worlds. I get my queen stopping white from castling, and my bishop retains the pin on the knight on c3, so I don't have to worry about this nasty knight d5 move. If knight takes b6 now, I think just a takes b6. I mess up my pawns, but I gain the open a file to work with. So KO Kings has about a 4-minute time advantage, but arguably a tougher position. They could always try to trap my bishop somehow with h4, but I can react with h6 or h5. I'm not gravely concerned about this bishop getting walled off just yet. As long as f5 is a possibility, this bishop can emerge in the game. I'm playing this game a little bit later than usual. It's about 10 o'clock p.m. my time, posting this game in 2 hours. I've had a long, busy day. A good day, but a busy one. I haven't made it to the gym yet. One thing I've noticed is that I play better after I've come back from the gym. And I'm going to try to get on a schedule where I record my videos after I exercise. Specifically, I play better after I do cardio. Not so much if I lift weights, but cardio especially. Like if I get on the treadmill and grind out a few miles, I always feel in a good mood to play chess thereafter. Let me know what you guys think. Do you play better after you work out, or do you think there's any correlation? Let me know. So KO Kings has paused to think. Probably rightly so. This looks like a tough decision for them. Kind of an odd series of moves, right? And really this entire game, like from move 8 onwards, has been kind of strange. Okay, first thing I notice about this move is knight takes a4 might be possible. But actually it doesn't work. Knight takes a4, queen takes, bishop takes c3, b takes, queen takes, he has king f2, and he simultaneously defends. This is really a strange looking move. Knight a3. I mean, I guess he was worried about the attack on c4, and maybe he's planning to come to c2, but I have a hard time taking this move seriously. Knight to the rim is grim, right? So if I play rook a c8, is he just going to play rook c1? Is that his contention? I mean, maybe it's okay, but it already looks desperate for white. I mean, rook a c8 is a move I can just hammer out here pretty quick if I want. And given that I'm under 5 minutes, I should probably do that. So yeah, let's play this way. Everything's defended. Not worried about a5. I'm attacking c3 again. So I expect rook c1. And black is still on the attack. White is kind of pinned up. Maybe queen e3 thereafter? Attacking that rook on c1. So let's say rook c1, queen e3. Rook c2 might be close to force then. It's almost looking like I can win material. In that position, I could always play a5 if I want and just defend my bishop. Yeah, a5 looks pretty good. He's going to be all sorts of tangled up here soon, I think. I chose the a rook because the f rook might want to come to d8. I didn't see any particular benefit to leaving the rook on a8. Walling it in, actually, if I were to play rook fc8. So when you're deciding which square to move a rook to, be mindful of the impact that your decision will have on the other rook. So don't just look at that rook that you're moving to. What's going to happen with the other rook? Where is it going to go in the future? So if rook c1, as I predict white will play, I'm thinking queen in, attacking that rook, rook c2, and then just a stabilizing move, a5. I don't have any overt threats, but I also don't really see how white makes a move there. This knight's pinned, white can't castle. This knight's doing who knows what on b5, or on a3 rather. It can come to b5, but I don't think even that helps white so much. I might just play like rook f8, maybe pawn f5, reintroduce this bishop to the struggle. We're catching up on time now. I like this. If I were white, I would maybe think about ways I can give up a pawn, like let black take on c3 and liquidate some material to try to free my position. That's never an easy decision to make, relinquishing material in order to just survive. But sometimes you need to do this. Here I would start to move quicker if I were white. They're spending some time. We're nearly even on the clock now. And black has the initiative, so it's not going to be easy for him. Okay, so this knight comes back. I'm really tempted just to play a5, just to rule out any attempt by white to play a5. But then again, rook fd8 looks really good too. If a5, I can just take it with my bishop. But still, this move makes them so helpless. I kind of just want to play it. I think I have the time to do so. Yeah, let's do it. We're being greedy and kind of twisting the knife here, taking our time, but white is so bottled up on the queen side, I can get away with this. And rook fd8 didn't create a threat either, so maybe I'll just leave this rook here for now. If the knight is developed to d2, then c3 becomes weak. I might not even take it right away. I might just play rook fd8 and attack this knight, see how white reacts. I could take it, however. I could play bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, and if they take b6, a1 is hanging. So bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, rook takes. But that's one of those scenarios where maybe white's okay with giving up a pawn to try to free themselves. Maybe they play king f2 then. So I'm just going to ratchet up the pressure. I'm saying, I don't want your pawn. I want to bring another piece into the equation. I know your king's in trouble. So what are you going to do about this? Castle's queenside looks suicidal. I don't think white can play that. I mean, not only is bishop takes c3 probably good, but even stuff like queen e3 then. Which might be my next move, by the way, regardless. I might play the queen in here. g4. Okay, so white playing on the king side. So I can bring the queen in. White does have knight f1 in that case. But you know what I can even play then is rook takes c3. That move is working. That's a nifty one. So queen into e3, knight f1, rook takes c3. And then if pawn takes, I have bishop takes, winning. If after rook takes c3, knight takes e3, I just take on b3 and I'm up a piece. That is crushing. Wow. Okay, so let's do this. This knight cannot move. That's pretty clear. That's disaster on either d2 or b3. I'm threatening the knight. So what is white really to do? Rook d1? It's about the only move other than knight f1 I can think of. But rook d1, I think I'm back to maybe thinking about just taking on c3. Probably, because my queen still defends b6. So let's say rook d1, bishop takes c3, pawn takes c3, rook takes c3. And maybe rook c2 coming very soon. It looks quite good. Any other way I can do some damage here, like knight c4 type moves, but white just takes with their knight. Rook takes d2. Rook takes d2 is kind of tempting as well, albeit potentially unnecessary. I could play rook takes c3 first, pawn takes, and then bishop takes, attacking d2. Unnecessary, though. Let's just keep it simple. Let's just do this and then take. We're not sacrificing any material. White's so bottled up here. I have 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. White's not far behind or far ahead. It wouldn't have been worth the extra time I would need to really find a crushing move. This might be the best move for all I know. It wins a pawn and keeps my attack. If queen b2, I can play knight takes a4. Here I can also play knight takes a4 if I want. Just seeing if something like knight c4 messes me up. Probably not. Just scanning, making sure. Knight f1. No, I can always take. Okay, so let's do this. It's just this is a loose piece, and so is the knight on a4. So I was checking to make sure that white couldn't embarrass those pieces in any way. All right, so here I'm going to take. And after queen takes, I can play either queen d4 or queen c1. Either move is good. Queen d4 defends the knight. Queen c1 pins the white queen. I'm kind of leaning towards queen here. Queen c1 also looks pretty good, though. But let's go here. My bishop is still out of play, but honestly, I don't think it matters because I have these 3 pawns on the queen side. White still can't really trap that bishop, so even though it's out of the game for now, it's going to be totally difficult for white to somehow take advantage of that fact. If h4, I'll just play h6. Or maybe h5. Probably h6, though. Okay, so the king comes out. Now I was thinking knight c5. This enables knight b3 check. White's got to move this knight if they want to coordinate with their rook, but now knight b3 check is a big bother. I'm getting ready for my a-pawn to run down the board, too. Maybe some sort of tactic on e4 will be present. I'm up 2 pawns. So white covers that, but now we can look to start advancing our a-pawn. So let's just play a4. If knight g3, a3, knight e2, I'm already in there with a2. That looks very close to winning. Also on knight e2, I can even throw in rook d3 check. Maybe that's the best move. It's kind of a disruptive move. Okay, bishop c2, but I can take here now. I think is the issue with that. Grab a pawn. Rook f2 possibly coming. White has 30 seconds left as well. Okay, I think I'm happy to trade my light square bishop for this knight. So I'm not even going to give this move a second thought. I'll probably check on f2 next. Yeah, let's give a check, because now their king has to stay close to the bishop, and moving the king to c1 or d1 is going to block this rook as well. Keep on pushing. And KO Kings resigned. All right, so white never really got out of the opening in this one. I think their decision to play this aggressively in the center to the great cost of their dark squares was a faulty one. And right around here, I was a little uncertain after queen b3, but queen c5 seems to be a good move. Much better than bishop c5, which I was originally looking at. And white just didn't figure out a good way to unwind here. In their defense, it's a tough position. I didn't see a great way for them to get castled and get a normal position either. I mean, maybe they got a castle queenside. I still think there was potential for a slightly more accurate continuation from me right here. But castling, it looks normal. That's why I played it without second-guessing myself too much. But then I wound up spending a lot of time on the next move. So I wish I would have had knight b6 a little more worked out before I got to this position. But let's go back and take a look at it. So we had a Slav. Now, if white wants to keep it out of strict Slav territory, via this move order, they can play e3, if they like, defending the pawn on c4. And now, most likely, black will not take on c4, because doing so would not bring me any sort of benefit. The benefit of taking on c4 in the normal Slav, like this, the game position, is that white has to waste time playing a4 to recover the pawn. Because if they play e3 here, I can play b5, and white's not going to get an easy bishop takes c4 in. So on move 3, there is a difference between playing knight c3 and knight f3. With knight c3, knight f6, e3, black has a harder time playing bishop f5. There's a game I played against this Cuban grandmaster where I got some flack because I played a risky gambit line, and many of you didn't like how that turned out for me. It went c takes d5, c takes d5, queen b3, white attacking here and here, and then I played knight c6, queen takes b7, bishop d7, which is a gambit that's possible for black, but in the game I didn't manage to prove that it was any good. So to draw this back to the game, KO kings, if they want to keep me out of Slav territory, e3 would be the way to go. And via this move order, black might play e6 and go into a semi-Slav. I could try that bishop f5 line, although I probably wouldn't have. There's other moves black can play, like g6 or a6. But if you want to keep the position away from the Slav entirely, this might be a move order you should look into from the white side. Instead, knight f3 was played, and now d takes c4, a4. White has to waste that time, remember, making sure black can't play b5. So I use that time to get my bishop outside the chain. In the Slav, black is usually not concerned with retaining this pawn that they've won. They're going to let white take that pawn, but in return, I get nice development. And now knight e5. The other main line is e3. So knight e5, knight bd7, knight takes c4, queen c7. So I've had a couple games with g3, which is the main move here. And then it goes e5, take, bishop f4, knight fd7, and bishop g2. And there's quite a bit of theory from this position. On move 8 here, white does have some alternatives. As I said, Conrad Holt played this rather funky-looking move, queen to d2, against me recently in a blitz game. The point of queen d2 is to discourage black from playing e5, because if I play it right now, white takes once, and then plays queen f4. And black has this awkward problem where both pieces are under attack, and this knight is pinned. I would lose my queen if I took. Bishop g5 is a move that I've studied before. I've looked at this line, but I don't think I've ever encountered it in practice. And I'm pretty sure e5 is the solution, but I'm not certain, so let's add in the engine right here and just get its verification. Yeah, e5 is the top move. And white took. But for the rest of the game, they were really missing their dark square bishop, which I kind of mentioned is a possibility if white parts with the dark square bishop so willingly this early. So the engine is liking just e3, a more modest move, but it doesn't seem to me that white can count on any advantage here if black is able to play e5 this easily. But still, white might want to choose a restrained treatment of the position after e5 because playing aggressively like they did not work out. So take and then e4, so white does gain a tempo. And here I played bishop g6. I mentioned that e takes d4 was possible. That's the move that the engine likes. But I wasn't quite sure. And I didn't want to fracture my pawns unless I was positive that it was good. But the engine really seems to like it. It's already giving black a half pawn advantage here. If e takes f5, then d takes c3. B takes c3, castles queenside. It's even material, but white still needs to get castled, and black looks to have nice activity. If take, queen takes, probably bishop c5. Nope, just bishop e6. And now the engine really likes black, I guess with bishop c5 on the horizon. Yeah, so maybe I should have given e takes d4 a bit more thought. I played bishop g6. This was my one bad piece, though, throughout the game. This bishop never participated until the very end. But still, it looks okay for black, just perhaps not the best move. And I didn't play bishop e6, remember, because d5 comes with tempo. So bishop g6, white plays d5. And here I pop out with the bishop. This is a convenient square for black to use in the Slav by virtue of white having played a4 on move 5. That's the big downside of a4 is that you weaken the b4 square. And black can just plunk their bishop right in, and often there's not much white can do about it. And here white took. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. So white has 1329 right here. That move cost them less than 10 seconds. And according to the engine, that already puts them in bad shape. It gives about an equal eval here. But after taking c6, black's already clearly better. Or at the very least, slightly better. So it goes back to my point. You got to be willing to spend your time proactively, and especially in positions where there might be some danger to you. Here, I think there should be a signal to white that they might be in danger because I already have some threats, like bishop takes e4. And white is the one who's slightly behind in development here. I have all my minor pieces out as black. White still needs to bring the light square bishop in to the game. So spending another move on a non-developing move should raise some red flags in white's head. I mean, I know you can always try to justify exchanges by saying, oh, well, if I exchange, they're probably going to have to take back, right? I haven't lost any time. They got to waste time recapturing. But it's not that black and white. Pardon the pun. Because here, after queen takes c6, I'm on e4. White can't play a normal developing move like bishop e2 without just losing this pawn. Hence, white had to waste time playing f3. And I got a nice initiative out of the deal. So what does the engine like better here? Just bishop e2 in this position. And what if bishop takes e4? Because I can do this. The knight is pinned. Then castle. Here white's gambiting a pawn. Bishop g6, pawn d6. Queen back to b8. Okay. h4, sharp stuff. First glance, I'm skeptical that white has compensation, but maybe. The engine evaluation hasn't moved much from equality. Yeah, I think after d takes c6, queen takes, the initiative is firmly in black's hands, and I don't know if white is going to get back in the game. Especially if they make like one more mistake. It could be all over. So f3 was played. And here I castled short. So this was a moment where I was criticizing my play a bit after the fact. I thought maybe I had better here. I was looking at moves like, I think, knight b6, rook d8 I remember looking at. Even stuff like bishop c5 straight away. I don't know if I looked at that move. There's probably not much point to playing that right away. Maybe castling isn't so bad, though. It is helpful in a lot of lines. Castling queenside, as the computer was just recommending, I did not look at it at all, I don't think. This seems odd to do this when there's an open c-file and maybe I want to use my pressure down the c-file. But yeah, even this might be an option. f5, yeah, maybe f5 even. I think I said that I was more focused on doing something in the center on the queen side, and I didn't want to play f5, but f5 is desirable from a long-term standpoint because I would love to get this bishop back in the game and increase its scope. But castling seems fine. So castle short, and then white played bishop e2. Any other better moves? Knight e3 is a suggestion. That entails a pawn sacrifice. Take, and then queen takes. King f2. This is the sort of thing that white might have to resort to, though, giving up a pawn to solve their king issue. I don't know if putting the king on f2 is totally solving the problem, but at least then they can get this bishop out, and their rook might have a chance to come to the center or the queen side. So bishop e2 was played. And here I played knight b6. This was my longest think of the game. I spent over 4 minutes on this move, deciding what to do. On the one hand, I had a lot of interesting possibilities, but I also saw white slipping away in a lot of lines, because white is ready to castle and secure their king. Again, the computer likes f5. So what happens if take, and then just castle? We play it slow, rook f d8. Just building threats, creating discovered attack possibilities on that queen on d1. From a human perspective, I think this seems like a slight failure for black if I let white castle without winning material or something. So even though the engine likes f5, I feel like a human is less likely to play that. I think they're going to focus on trying to stop white from castling or attacking on the queen side. Knight b6 is more direct. I'll say that. So attacking this knight. Queen b3. Yet the evaluation is back to equality here. Interesting. And now I played queen c5. So I thought I was getting a nice deal here with my queen stopping castling and my bishop retaining the pin. But maybe there's a route to equality for white. Knight takes b6. A takes b6. h4. Okay, threatening to trap. h5. King f1. Dead equal, according to the computer. Huh. So white still has issues with the king. It's stopping the rooks from coordinating. But having removed that pin, white is ready to play the knight into d5, which would be a big bother. And I do have to bear in mind that this bishop is still out of the game. The line that the computer is looking at right now is bishop takes c3, queen takes, trade the queens, and then play f5 at the end, trying to liberate this bishop. And it's still saying about equal or maybe even a tad better for white now. Not an easy line for a human to come up with. I mean, playing king f1 might in some ways feel like white is headed down the wrong path. It's not contributing to getting their king to safety, but it does remove that pin and allows for knight d5. But this shows how the situation is already somewhat dire for white. They need to find an accurate continuation because that window of opportunity to do so may close. I feel after the move they played in the game, knight a3, it's very bad for them. I'm not sure what knight a3 was about. Probably knight a3 was directed against my pressure on c3. It seemed like white was trying to proactively send some defenders there, like maybe enabling rook c1 and knight b1, that sort of thing. But it looks like an overreaction. And I think KO King spent some time here too. A little bit of time, 2 minutes. And then their next move, they also spent a lot of time. So what's better than queen c5? The computer wants to play knight takes c4. I thought about that briefly. So if queen takes b4 in that case, knight e3 looks kind of nasty because there's both of these threats. A fork on c2 or the g2 pawn. So probably if knight takes c4, white will take with the queen on c4. Then queen b6. Okay, so doing the same thing, but trade a pair of knights first. Again, king f1. This version of it is somehow slightly better for black, maybe because I get an initiative. White also hasn't played h4 yet. So I could see why knight takes c4 would be slightly more accurate than queen c5. So that was it for white, I think. Unless something groundbreaking happens between knight a3 and the end of the game. Because I think they were firmly on their back foot after this. But yeah, knight takes b6 was the best try. Followed by h4, h5, king f1. Looking for knight d5. So after knight a3, I played rook ac8. Seemed like a natural move. f5 once again is suggested. And now knight ab1. Not a move you would like to make if you're white. I thought white would play rook c1 to defend c3, since c3 is attacked 3 times and it's only defended once. Or twice, rather. And then I was planning queen e3, hitting the rook. Rook c2. And then I think a5 was the move I was looking at. And white is just stuck here. Nothing to do. Everything's pinned. It's not even necessary for black to create an immediate threat. I have all the time I need. I could even play that f5 move now. Now that the rook is on c2, that might be a good time to do it. Get white to trade, take with the bishop. Crushing. So probably correctly, white thought better of playing rook c1. Maybe they spotted queen e3. Possibly knight c2 is the best chance. I think I mentioned this possibility, but white might have to bank on doing something like this. I'll say pawn takes. Give up a pawn, but hope to connect the rooks and escape otherwise unscathed. And you can see slightly better for black with that extra pawn, but this bishop is buried. White's coordinated. White lives to fight another day. That is one useful defensive method. When you're getting attacked, sometimes you can strategically offer a trade. Or I should rephrase that. You can choose a correct moment to give up material and trade initiative for material or time for material. Like you gain some time to coordinate and consolidate, and your opponent has to burn that time winning the material that you're offering. And if it's something small like a pawn, that might be your best bet versus allowing them to continue their attack unhindered. So knight b1. Now I just played a5. I couldn't resist. Again, I don't know that a5 is actually a threat for white, but this just seemed like a nice way to lock down the queen side and emphasize the fact that white has no moves. Knight d2. I played rook f d8, just bringing another piece into the equation. Queen e3, also strong. Yeah, makes sense. Queen e3 looking good. That attacks c3 from a new angle. And I also pin the bishop. But rook f d8, invite everyone to the party. g4. So white tried something on the king side, but it's too little, too late. Now here, I saw a nice line. So if knight f1, rook takes c3 is working, attacking their queen. And if b takes c3, then bishop takes c3 check. And white's losing. They're going to have to give up their queen or play knight d2. And if knight takes e3 after rook takes c3, then we can take here. And black's up a piece with an ongoing attack. So I was hoping for that finale, but rook d1 was played. And I probably missed something good here. I mean, I'm pretty certain I missed a faster way to end this. But we were both getting pretty low on time, and I just decided to be practical and bank an extra pawn, which was soon 2 extra pawns. Let's see where the most clinical win was to be found. So the engine likes bishop c5, threatening mate. Rook f1. And now queen g5. Pull the queen back, threatening queen h4, attacking on the dark squares. That was the theme of this game, wasn't it? The dark squares and how weak they were in white's camp. Yeah, that looks winning. White can't stop queen h4. So instead I took rook takes c3. White brought the queen back. Oh, here. Yeah, that's a good move too. Rook cd3. That's a nice one. I think I looked at rook cd3, but for some reason I thought bishop takes d3 was possible, but that bishop is pinned, of course. And if something like queen c2 trying to defend this another time, looks like there's multiple good moves, but I bet even knight c4 is good. If this knight takes, rook takes d1. And if queen takes, rook takes d2. Yeah, this also looks crushing. So after queen b1, though, I just played knight takes a4, up 2 pawns. White played knight f1, attacking my rook and my queen. Note that I was trying to be careful here, though. It always pays to double-check your lines, and if you have loose pieces, as I do, undefended knight, undefended rook, make sure that your opponent doesn't have some tactical way they can exploit that. Even when you're 2 pawns ahead with an attack and seemingly cruising, bad stuff can happen if you're not aware of your undefended pieces. So knight f1, I took on d1. White took with the queen, forced. Queen d4. Swap, swap. And even though the bishop's out of play, I've got too much other stuff going on, and white's too uncoordinated. Yeah, and I don't think white had much after this. I thought at some stage white would play h4 and try to threaten my bishop, but if ever h4 is played, h6 or maybe even h5 is going to be a good answer. And here I took f3 and soon won the game. All right, so I think it was intriguing to see how the game played out and the dark square theme, how that tied into everything and how it permeated the entire game, really, after White's decision to take on f6. I do think White played the opening recklessly, though, and their position is already difficult here. There was that one moment where the computer thought White had a chance to survive. Key moment when White played knight a3 on move 16. Instead, this knight takes b6 move was required, followed by h4, and then king f1, and then knight d5, trying to go for knight d5 and simplify. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll be back again soon with another video. Talk to you guys later. Bye.